In our postmodern age of division, anger, anxiety, and confusion, the most dangerous weapon you have is your own mind.
Take control! Question everything!
This is the Intellectual Freedom Podcast.
There is a story from Greek mythology about a hunter named Actaeon, a man who knew the wilderness, commanded a pack of powerful dogs, and moved through the forests with incredible confidence. Just someone that was accustomed to being obeyed. He was that alpha male type. So the animals he had trained to follow his voice, they pursued the object he would command on them. He placed them, and then they would return immediately when they were called. Incredibly skilled hunting dogs. And then one day, after a very long hunt, Actaeon wandered away with his companions and entered a very secluded grove. And there, just purely accidentally, came upon the goddess Diana bathing in a hidden spring with her attendants. Actaeon, he had not went out searching for her. He had not planned on violating some sacred boundary of the gods and goddesses, but he had seen what no mortal was permitted to see. And so Diana turned toward him in a fury. Without her famous bow in her hand to shoot him, she gathered water in her palm, threw it into his face, and condemned him to a terrible, terrible punishment. If he wished, he could now tell others that he had seen the goddess unveiled, if he could still speak. But at once, instead, antlers rose up on his head. His arms narrowed into legs, and his hands hardened into hooves, and the body of the hunter became the body of a deer. Terrified, Actaeon fled through the forest. When he reached a pool and saw his reflection, he tried to just cry out, "What in the world has happened to me?" But no human words would come out of his mouth. Only the frightened sound of an animal escaped his throat. Then his own hunting dogs caught his scent. These were the very animals he had raised, he had trained, he had loved. He'd named them, he'd commanded them. Yet when they saw him, they just didn't recognize their master. They only saw prey. So Actaeon did about the only thing he thought he could do, which was just run. But the dogs he had trained to hunt were just too fast. They chased him through the forest, surrounded him, pulled him to the ground, tore him apart, while he remained unable to call them off, or even to tell him who he was. So the hunter became the hunted, and the master was destroyed by the very creatures that had once obeyed him. It's a brutal death, being ripped to shreds by the very animals that he had loved and trained and lived with. But it's also metaphorically a very accurate picture of the modern mind. See, we too have trained a pack of hunting dogs inside of us. Our appetites, our ambitions, our insecurities, our fears, grievances, curiosities, and desires. Each of them has a very legitimate place in your life when it remains under the direction of reason. Ambition can move you toward excellence. Curiosity can help you understand the world. Fear can warn you of danger, and desire can push you towards what's necessary and good. But when those forces are no longer governed, they stop serving us and they begin chasing us. A notification sound, on your phone and your mind runs after it. Someone posts a political opinion you disagree with, and your mind runs after that. A friend buys a beautiful home, gets a promotion, a vacation, is in perfect physical condition, or appears to apparently have a wonderful family, and suddenly the mind is pulled into comparison. A headline frightens us. An advertisement awakens a desire that we have that we didn't possess even 30 seconds before. A stranger's criticism follows us into the evening, haunts us, while the mistake from 10 years ago returns in the middle of the night and it demands to be relived. Like Actaeon, we can become unable to command what was trained to serve us. The hunter becomes the hunted. The ruling mind is dragged through the forest by whatever happens to catch its attention. The mind was meant to direct attention, can easily be dragged around by whatever happens around us in our external environment, or happens to just bark the loudest. There's yet another image that captures this condition, and it comes from modern art. Think of the fractured cubist portrait, and if you've ever studied the humanities, I know if you've been in one of my humanities classes, you've seen cubist art. It's very abstract. For those not into the visual arts, and you're just listening in right now, you're thinking, I have no clue what you're even talking about. When you get the chance, just put on Google cubist art, and the second you see it in 2 seconds, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But what I mean is it often will portray the human face, the human body in very geometrical forms. It's still recognizable, but the features have been displayed or fractured into little pieces. The eyes appear at one angle, the mouth at another, and the head seems to be looking forward, backward, inward, sideways, all at once. It's a visual play on the human figure and the human psyche, and the person is there, and you can see the person, but the person has been broken up into literal pieces of perspectives. And that's how many people live. Our bodies occupy one room, but our minds are scattered across 10 others. We're listening to one person while thinking about another, performing one task while anticipating the next, remembering yesterday, rehearsing tomorrow, checking the phone, comparing ourselves with strangers, wondering how it all appears to people who may not be thinking about us at all. We can very easily be present in our physical body, but completely absent in our mind. And so with that, I'm Dr. David Hopkins. I'm your humanities professor, and I'm your host and your guide as we explore the wisdom, the knowledge, perspective, nuance that is found in great books so that we can think freely, live wisely, and achieve practical success. But right now, we are in the early stages of the iconic book of Stoicism called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And today we are in book 3 of Meditations, where Marcus returns repeatedly to a question that cuts through all the noise. And I want you to ponder this very carefully. Who is governing your mind? You will probably on the surface easily say, it's me, I'm in control of my mind. But seriously, who is governing your mind? What sits upon that throne within you? Is it reason, conscience, clear understanding of what is good? Or is your mind being occupied by fear, distraction, appetite, vanity, and imagined opinions of others? So Marcus often refers to the governing faculty, or the thing that dominates our thoughts within us, as the ruling power. It's a great term. I mean, obviously Marcus was an emperor, so that worked for him. It's that part of the mind that resonates, that receives your impressions. interprets your events, directs your attention. It makes judgments, chooses what to do next. That ruling power in your mind, it doesn't control what's happening around you in the external world at all, really. And Marcus, he had no illusion that it did. He lived through a plague, war, political intrigue, sickness, betrayal, deaths of many people that he loved. He watched his children die. He saw armies rebel against him. He carried the burden of the Roman Empire as his own physical body weakened. He knew that the world could not be commanded. But what he believed, however, was that human beings retain another kind of freedom, one that is more inward and more fundamental, which is the freedom to decide whether the world will take possession of your mind or will it not, and will you control your mind. That's the central movement of this third book that we're in right now. And so I hope you're reading along with me and as you go through book 3, but even if you're not and you're just tuning in for the first time, this message here will stand alone without having to read the book. But I always do encourage everyone who listens to go back, get the book, read along with me as we go. But in book 3, Marcus wants us to gather our scattered mind, because our mind does get scattered. That's for certain. Withdraw it from useless speculation and remove what does not deserve our attention. Because society, especially in our social media age, they are constantly vying for our attention. And Marcus is challenging us to put ourselves into the duty before us and accept reality without surrendering truth, justice, and the integrity of our own character. He writes this, quote, "Do not waste the remainder of thy life in thoughts about others, when thou dost not refer thy thoughts to some object of common utility." End quote. So don't waste the remainder of your life on thoughts about other people. Don't worry about what other people are saying or thinking. My God, how much time, energy, and effort do we waste mentally on thoughts about what other people might be thinking about us? And almost certainly, those people could care less or care a lot less than we ever give them credit or worry about them having about us, because they have their own things to worry about. The phrase should stop us, because Marcus is not talking about losing a few minutes or wasting an afternoon. No. People do waste not a few minutes here or there. I mean, you could spend hours on whether the outfit looks nice before they head out the door, or, oh no, that person could be worried, think that I don't have enough money, or I don't know how to dress, or I don't know anything about style. Literally, people can worry so much that it will change the entire trajectory of their day or their week or their life based solely on the opinions of other people. We waste years sometimes. We give it up to someone who probably could have cared less. So Marcus challenges us. He says every hour that passes, it's not simply just another hour. It's one less hour of the time we have left until we die. And Marcus warns us, spending that time on useless speculation about what other people may or may not even feel. What's that person doing? Why did they say that? What does that person think of me? Why did they invite her and not me? Were they talking about me? Did I sound foolish in that meeting? Do they respect me? What in the world are they planning? Was that comment actually directed at me supposed to be a joke, or were they serious? I mean, we could just go on and on with this, but when those questions, they serve no purpose connected to the wisdom, duty, service, or the common good, Marcus says they pull us away from the observations of our own ruling power. We have surrendered our ruling power. We have surrendered our mind to someone or something that may or may not be real. We neglect the one mind, the one thing that we're entrusted to, because we're attempting to trespass into the minds of other people, which we have no power over, and we never will have power over them. Let's think back to like a 13-year-old boy wakes up in the morning, walks into the bathroom, turns on the light, looks in the mirror, and oh my gosh, there's a new pimple, a huge pimple, acne on the face. Not one tiny blemish he can ignore, but at least in his own imagination, it's a complete disaster. You can almost envision the kid leaning closer to the mirror, then farther away, then flipping a different angle, closer again. So changing the distance or the angle might reveal a version of reality that the kid can live with. And he turns his face side to side. Nothing seems to help. And the stress and the anxiety over the whole thing gets worse. And because the pimples are still there. And then almost immediately the mind begins constructing a courtroom. Everyone in school is going to stare at me. They're all going to be laughing at me. Someone's going to say something. The girl I like's going to notice it. My friends will make jokes. Everybody will remember this day forever. For a moment, the kid seriously considers staying home. And he starts even to think, well, maybe my stomach actually isn't feeling all that good. And maybe he's coming down with something. Maybe the responsible thing, medically speaking, he tries to tell himself, would be to remain in bed and avoid algebra. Eventually, though, the kid goes to school very hesitantly, completely stress and anxiety riddled. He walks through the doors, convinced several hundred students have assembled, basically for the one central purpose, to examine his forehead and to laugh at him. But what's actually happened? What's probably going on in that school? The 700 other 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds are worried about their own face. One student thinks their nose is too big, another is too small. Someone thinks their clothes sucks. One thinks they're too short. One boy's terrified the teacher will call on him because he didn't do his homework. A girl's wondering whether her friends can be angry with her. Another student's wearing a shirt that looked perfectly acceptable at home, but now beneath the brutal lighting looks stupid. Appears to be the worst decision they ever made in their entire life. They are not all gathered together to invite our one kid who looked in the mirror and saw some acne. They're gathered together while nearly every one of them imagines that everyone is examining them as well. I mean, we can all laugh at that because we recognize adolescence, but adults, we do the same thing. We simply develop a more sophisticated acne. We worry that people notice the weight we gain, that our house is not impressive enough, our car's a piece of junk, our career's not advancing far enough. I thought I should be further than I am right now. Or we sound foolish when we're speaking. We imagine everyone else has more money, a stronger marriage, better behaved children, a clearer sense of purpose, and a more coherent life. We leave a conversation and replay one sentence repeatedly. Why did I say that? I should have said that. Did that sound stupid? Did they misunderstand me? Am I talking too much? Did I not talk enough? Did they notice that I was nervous? Meanwhile, somewhere across town, the person we spoke with may be lying in bed and asking the same question about themselves. There's actually a psychological term for what Marcus is talking about here in Meditations. It's called the spotlight effect, and it's well documented. And it's really our habit of overestimating how much people notice our appearance and our behavior and our mistakes. And Marcus looked at it more from a deeper philosophical problem. long before there was a modern psychology could give it a name, and big pharmaceutical probably come up with a drug with it. I'm sure they have 1 million already out there in the market for it. But when you become fixated on what other people may think of you, you surrender your ruling power to an imaginary courtroom. You become the defendant, invent the prosecutor, you manufacture your own evidence against yourself, you assemble the jury, and then far too often pronounce yourself guilty. Very often the jury is not even in the courtroom. They're staring in the mirror, and you're just prosecuting yourself. Now, we should be honest here. People do judge us. Teenagers viciously mock other teenagers. That is real. Adults gossip constantly. Coworkers compete. Families do criticize. Social media can magnify cruelty by allowing one foolish comment, awkward photograph, or embarrassing moment to be displayed, repeated, mocked, and preserved forever. Marcus is not asking us, and you should not, and I should not pretend that judgment does not exist because, oh my goodness, what a flat out lie that would be. Marcus is asking you why somebody else's judgment should become the ruler of your mind and ultimately your life. You do not possess their opinion, and you cannot govern their interpretation. You cannot force a person to see you accurately, charitably, or fairly. They have a whole set of circumstances on their own. What remains, though, is your judgment, your conduct, your response, and the meaning you assign to that moment. So, you're not relieved of any responsibility of reacting towards people with humility, kindness, empathy, listening to them, attempting to understand them. You still must do that. You don't have the right to lash right back at them. It's a very common thing we see in society. Well, if you disrespect me, then I'm going to disrespect you. No, that's not what Marcus is saying. Because when you're in control of your faculties, you do possess the ability to tell the truth, to act justly, and endure some embarrassment without converting it into the next greatest catastrophe ever to exist. It's one of our big problems in our world today. Everything's a catastrophe. Everything's the beginning of the end. It's just not true. It's not true. Most of us, most of the time, are not under constant observation. There is a finite, limited, less than 1% of the population out there. The very famous, the very powerful, the very rich, that are under white hot spotlights every second of every day. But that's not you. That's not me. We are living under the illusion of constant observation. Even when people are watching, their attention is usually incredibly brief. They look, they react, and return to their own concerns, which trump your concerns and your problems every time, I can almost promise you. Yet we often keep their glance alive for years. Someone makes a comment for 10 seconds and we carry it for 10 years. They forgot the remark almost the second after it came out their mind, out their mouth, while you have it engraved inside your mind. Marcus tells us to regain control of our mind, recognize our fragile and weak limitations, and return to that ruling power, and ask whether the thought before us serves any useful purpose. Imagine if every time we got flustered and all these things we're talking about, and we had the power intellectually, mentally, to say, does it help me understand? Does it help serve me? Does it move me towards justice? Does it produce constructive actions? Or does it just have my mind wandering into imagined slights or imagined misconducts? This temptation, it was ancient, obviously, because Marcus was talking about it, but the modern world, we've industrialized it. Because Marcus Aurelius, of course, he had to deal with court gossip, political intrigue, and rumors, and messengers, and ordinary human desire to know what other people were saying and doing. But in our world, we carry a powerful computer in our pockets that can answer that desire without end about what everybody's doing, who's failing, who's succeeding, what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on with the economy. Oh my gosh, this, oh my gosh, that. Have I gained weight? Who's gained weight? Who lost weight? Who got a promotion? How'd they get all that money? On and on and on. Just open the phone, the feed, it'll never end, because it doesn't ever end. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if the tech giants had their way, you would never get off of it. You would live your entire life with your mind and your mental energy completely controlled by that feed. By recent global estimates, internet users spend well over 2 hours a day on social media. The most prolific users could spend anywhere between 4 to 6 hours a day on social media. And over the course of a year, that amounts to hundreds upon hundreds of hours. Take it over a decade, and my goodness, the time, the mental energy and stress wasted on nonsense, utter nonsense, is astronomical. People say they have no time or energy or desire to do anything. My goodness, the computer and the phone and social media is sucking the life out of you. Now, not every single minute spent online is wasted. That would be incorrect to say too, because technology, it can, when properly applied, educate us, connect us to people we've lost contact with, entertain us, support our communities, introduce ideas, create legitimate opportunities. The Stoic question is not whether technology is good or evil in the abstract. The more useful question is, what is this activity replacing? And is it having a net positive outcome on my mental, physical, social well-being? Because time, it's not spent, it's exchanged. When you spend an hour scrolling, you exchange that hour. You could have been reading, physically working out, talking with friends, family, spending it with your kids. The honest question is what else that hour could have become. I think the big thing here is, suppose you reclaim only half of the time you spend on social media over the course of a year, just half. Let's say that's 200 hours of your life that you're not exchanging and giving to social media or Netflix binge watching. Wow. Could be a workout, could be a nice quiet walk in the park, conversation with your kids, time with parents, financial study, professional development, reading, sleeping, prayer, silence, or maybe even just building a new skill or hobby that could improve your future. The tragedy is not simply the cell phone and the social media consumption. The problem is the fragments of it that shift your life and your attention to the point that you don't become your best self. 5 minutes while waiting, 10 minutes before bed, 15 minutes after walking, a pause during lunch, a moment when conversation becomes difficult, a moment when boredom appears, a moment when anxiety rises. The phone becomes the place that we go to when we could otherwise be encountering and building and improving ourselves. That matters because a human life is not usually transformed through one enormous block of heroic effort. It's formed through small, repeated uses of time, consistent application of the best within you day after day. A relationship is built through ordinary conversations. Health is built through ordinary choices. Financial stability is built through repeated acts of discipline. Wisdom is built through sustained attention. Character is built through judgments we make when nobody is watching us. Those little fragments matter because the fragments become the whole. And Marcus warns us against what he calls the over-curious feeling. And it is difficult to imagine a better description of compulsive scrolling. The mind's not looking for anything in particular. When you start scrolling, it's simply looking for the next thing, one more image, one more outrage, one more life to compare, one more stranger to condemn, one more hot take piece of information that will enter your mind. Stir it up briefly, then let it go and go on to the next. We sometimes say that we are killing time, but time is not what dies. We do. You and I, we do. The hour does not lose its life. We lose an hour of ours. And Marcus continues, quote, "We ought then to check in the series of our thoughts everything that is without a purpose and useless, but most of all, the over-curious feeling and the malignant," end quote. The malignant thought deserves special attention because it is the thought that takes pleasure in another person's humiliation. Someone we don't like politically fails. Someone who has certain characteristics is exposed. Someone says something foolish and we pile on. Someone's marriage collapses. Someone's career ends. Someone makes a dumb decision or caught in hypocrisy, and we tell ourselves that our interest is motivated by truth or justice. Sometimes maybe, but Marcus would ask us to examine the emotional character of our attention. Are we seeking truth? Or are we enjoying destruction? Watch the news. Just turn on news. If you had to write down a one bullet point phrase of what that story is about, be murder here, corrupt politician there, rape, child abuse here, person killed there. We fall prey to that very easily. And a mind that repeatedly feeds on contempt or anger eventually becomes contemptuous and angry, even when the object changes. Marcus isn't asking you to ignore corruption, hypocrisy, cruelty, and abuse. They definitely exist. Should always fight against those. He governed an empire and had to constantly judge people and events. His distinction is purpose. Does where I am directing my attention prepare me to act wisely? Does it help me protect someone, understand a problem, contribute to the good, or am I consuming another person's failure as emotional junk food? The algorithm may profit from agitation, but the cost is paid by you. While some billionaires somewhere are profiteering off your pain, anxiety, fear, and stress, your mind is being polluted. So what is Marcus' question to all this mental noise that surrounds us? He gives us one of the most countercultural instructions imaginable, and he says this, quote, "Throwing away then all things, hold to these only which are few," end quote. So he says, basically, all that stuff swirling around you, get rid of it. It's not worth it. That runs against the grain of consumer culture, which tells us that improvement comes through addition. Add another product, another application, another subscription, another goal, another pill, another credential, another income stream, another car, another new pair of shoes, another experience, another productivity system to organize the productivity systems we already have. We assume that the answer to dissatisfaction must be we must not have acquired enough stuff yet. We need more, and more. Marcus introduces the exact opposite as a way to take control of yourself and your mind. What if the next meaningful improvement in your life does not arrive because you add something or buy something? What if it arrives because you finally remove something? Instead of asking, what else do I need? What should I buy? Marcus says maybe the best question is, what should I stop carrying? What can I get rid of? What can be deleted, declined, forgiven, sold, abandoned, or just allowed to flat out end? What if progress means subtracting an unnecessary obligation, deleting the application that repeatedly steals your attention, or refusing to answer every single message that always shows up because everything in every email is absolutely 100% vital to the continuation of Western civilization? What if it means releasing an argument that will change no one? Walking away from a purchase whose only purpose is to impress people you do not particularly respect? Or abandoning the fantasy that everyone must understand you? We speak often about managing burdens, but some burdens should not be managed more efficiently. You need to just put them down and leave them in your past. There are possessions that must be insured, cleaned, stored, repaired, updated, and eventually you replace them. These are the commitments that consume far more life than value justifies. There are relationships maintained entirely because of guilt and opinions we defend, even though we no longer remember how we acquired them, and resentments rehearse so frequently that they become part of your actual identity. Those are the kinds you got to get rid of. There are also goals that ceased to matter years ago, yet we continued pursuing them because we were afraid to admit that we failed or they have changed. Addition by subtraction is not necessarily laziness, retreat, or abandoning responsibility. It's the removal of what prevents responsibility from being fulfilled. That also does not mean you just quit the second something gets hard. There's a culture today that, if you've tried something hard for a couple weeks and it didn't work, you just give it up. That is definitely not part of the discipline that we talked about earlier. But a garden does not become healthy only because the gardener adds water and fertilizer. The best gardeners, they prune, they pull weeds, they remove dead branches, and clear away whatever is consuming resources without it bearing fruit. So the disciplined life is not empty. It just has to be cleared out enough so that what matters is the focus. It's especially important in our material culture because the price of possession is not limited to the money that's required to purchase it. Every single possession has a secondary price. Your attention, maintenance, storage, insurance, concern, comparison, desire for upgrades. This does not mean that the wealth is evil or comfort is shameful. Marcus himself lived in an imperial palace. Stoicism is not necessarily a philosophy of owning nothing. It is the philosophy of being owned by nothing. You can possess an object, but does that object possess you? Does it control your peace? Does it determine how you see yourself? Would losing it feel like losing a useful tool or losing your identity? You should think on those things. Because the Stoic question is not merely what does it cost, it's what will this continue to demand from me after I own it. So consumer culture begins by telling us that we're incomplete. We must have something. And then they offer that missing piece for sale. Marcus asks whether the deeper problem may be that you're not empty really at all. Perhaps we don't need another answer so much as room to hear the answer we already know. Because we accumulate opinions. The modern world seems to demand an immediate judgment about everything. Heck, you're asked after every single visit, every single thing you buy, to rate them on Google. Goodness gracious, you can't do anything anymore without somebody begging you to give a review. So we're encouraged in our lives to react to everything. But compulsory opinion is nothing more than another form of mental clutter. Here's something amazing that I wish we could see from our political class. Sometimes your opinion is not informed, and it should be permissible to say, I do not know enough yet. It is permissible to admit more thought is needed, that the issue does not concern your present duty, or that your reaction will add nothing useful. You do not have to transform every event into a public performance of your identity. A person who reacts to everything may deeply understand nothing. Marcus tells us to hold only to a few things. Those few are truth, justice, courage, self-command, service, present duty, and the willingness to accept what follows. Everything else may have value, but it must remain subordinate. He then writes this, quote, every man lives only this present time, which is an indivisible point, and all the rest of his life is either past or it is uncertain. You can only live the present moment. Whatever mistakes you made in your past, whatever things happened to you in the past, they don't matter anymore. And I know that's harsh and hard, especially for some people who've been through a whole lot of really hard things that I can't even fully appreciate. And the future is nothing but speculation. You do not know. You do not know the future. Stop wasting your energy on it. Marcus is saying you live only this present time, right this second. The past is real in the sense that it occurred, but you cannot return to it. The future may arrive, but it has not arrived yet. And the only place in which you can think, choose, speak, act, love, forgive, work, or demonstrate courage is right now. And yet, how rarely do we stay there? How much mental energy is dreaming about what I'm going to do next week, what I'm going to do next year, what my future plans are. Oh my goodness. And we relive old failures. We conduct arguments with people who are not even present anymore. We rewrite conversations that cannot be even altered, anticipate disasters in the future that might never happen, and imagine future successes so vividly that we emotionally consume and advance what has not been heard. And when we don't get there, we are disappointed. The human mind is incredible. But we often treat the present like a hallway leading toward our real life in the future, which hasn't even happened. Once this project is finished, real life will begin. Once the children reach a certain age, I'll be able to do this. Once my income reaches a certain number, I'm going to be happy. Once we move or retire or lose the weight or find the relationship or emerge from the difficult season, then we will be present. Then I will focus on the here and now. When the future arrives, it arrives disguised as just another present moment. And if we've trained ourselves mentally not to inhabit the present, we will not inhabit that future present either. This does not mean, again, always got to give the disclaimers, otherwise people just jump to the most absurd conclusions. That does not mean that planning is silly. Marcus planned military campaigns, governed an empire. Memory and preparation are functions of reason. The question is whether the past and the future are serving present action or replacing it. Learn from the past, but don't live inside of it. Prepare for the future, but do not demand guarantees from it. Act in the present, because it is the only territory that you can move your character forward. Marcus then writes this, quote, "If thou workest at that which is before thee, following right reason seriously, vigorously, calmly, without allowing anything else to distract thee," seriously, end quote there, seriously, vigorously, calmly. That's how we need to approach the present moment. Seriously, vigorously, and calmly. Man, that's a great set of words thrown side by side there. Seriousness without calm becomes grimness. Vigor without reason becomes frenzy. Calm without vigor becomes passivity. Reason without action is nothing more than a mere abstraction. So Marcus is not describing frantic productivity. He is describing composed excellence. That the ability to do what is before you with your full attention, without dramatizing the difficulty, checking every 30 seconds to see how the work makes you feel, or demanding certainty about an outcome, then you're in the right path. Sometimes what you have right in the present moment is not really impressive. Maybe it's just making a phone call you have postponed and you need to make, opening a financial statement, going for a walk, sitting beside someone who's grieving. It might be putting the phone in another room and listening to your child finish a story that appears to have no ending. Maybe apologizing. Don't know what it is for you. Maybe reading one page of a book carefully, preparing one meal, telling the truth in a room where falsehood would be safer. Ooh, that one stings a little. Many people are afraid to do that in the present moment. When they get out of that present moment, they're like, I should have said that. But life doesn't become excellent in the abstract. It becomes excellent through particular choices. This thought, this world, this duty, this hour. Marcus says that we should act expecting nothing, quote, expecting nothing, fearing nothing, but satisfied with the present activity according to nature. So expecting nothing doesn't mean you don't have hope. It means refusing to make the things outside of you and what has to be your reward. Fearing nothing doesn't mean that the body never experienced fears. It means that the fear is not permitted to to overtake your conduct. Because the truth is, sometimes you're going to act well and you're going to fail. Bad things happen to good people all the time. You may act badly and temporarily succeed. The world may misunderstand honorable conduct and reward dishonorable conduct. Oh, we know that happens. Democrats, Republicans, Congress, president. Marcus says the moral value of the actions that you take is found in the relationship to truth, justice, reason, not in the applause it receives. That's radical freedom. Radical freedom. Tell the truth because it is true. Serve because service is needed. Keep the promise you made. Perform the work because it is yours. Apologize because you were wrong. Stand firm because surrender would violate justice. Don't hold goodness hostage until the universe agrees to pay your preferred price. A good act is complete in itself, no matter how the external world reacts. Marcus writes that if you live this way, quote, thou wilt live happy, and there is no man who is able to prevent this, end quote. That is one of the boldest claims of Stoicism. You get your mind right, then your body will get right. Your actions will be right. And when all the evil nonsense, the crazy propaganda, the insanity that is swirling around this world is going this way, that way, and every way, none of it can touch you. Now that is intellectual freedom. Because other people can and they will try and obstruct your plans. They will try and damage your reputation. They will try and deprive you of possessions. They will misunderstand you. Other people will sometimes betray you and they will act unjustly. Duh, of course, anybody who thinks that's not what's going to happen to every single human on this planet that's ever lived, they're insane. The limit, the field on which you operate is inside your mind. What people cannot do, at least not without some participation from your own will, is force you to become dishonest, malicious, cowardly, or corrupt. This idea has to be handled carefully because Stoicism should never become a cheap way of dismissing suffering. Circumstances do matter. Poverty matters. Abuse happens and it matters. Oppression, illness, grief, trauma, financial problems. That all happens. The fact that a person retains some inward freedom does not excuse the person who harmed them or the society that failed them. There should be repercussions. And Marcus is not saying external conditions are insignificant. He is asking a more difficult question. Given what has happened, what freedom remains? Sometimes that freedom is vast. Sometimes it's small. Perhaps it's freedom to ask for help. Refuse hatred or endure another hour. Tell someone the truth. Begin again. Stop pretending. Don't know what it is. So you don't control the field upon which you act. But some responsibility remains for the spirit in which you act. Finally, Marcus says this, quote, there remains that which is peculiar to the good man, to be pleased and content with what happens, and with the thread which is spun for him, and not to defile the divinity which is planted in his breast, nor disturb it by a crowd of images, but to preserve it tranquil, following it obediently as a god. neither saying anything contrary to the truth nor doing anything contrary to justice, end quote. He tells us to be content with whatever situation you find yourself in. The image comes from an ancient idea of fate, which is a thread is spun, and then a life unfolds. Some portions of that life are incredibly beautiful, others horribly painful. Some of them are chosen when we make terrible choices. Others, those choices were not, you didn't make them, they happened to you. You didn't choose the century into that you were born. You didn't choose your body, every strength that that body has or its limitations, every loss, the actions of other people, and ultimately the length of the thread, the length of your life. But you do participate in what is woven for you. And so Marcus does not say that we should approve of everything, but we have to accept it and control our mind and deal with it the best way that we can, in the most honorable way that we can. In the end, reality is the starting point of every single action that we make. The event occurred, diagnosis was delivered, person left, the opportunity disappeared, maybe a mistake was made, the economy changed, the body aged, the child grew up, the betrayal happened. But now what? But now what? How are you going to react to it? Because Marcus says this, quote, "And if all men refuse to believe that he lives a simple, modest, and centered life, he is neither angry with any of them, nor does he deviate from the way which leads to the end of life, to which a man ought to come pure, tranquil, ready to depart, and without any compulsion, perfectly reconciled to his lot," end quote. Don't be angry. Don't abandon truth. Don't abandon justice. See, the present moment is this place, as we've been talking about, where you have the capacity to reclaim your life and change the dynamic and the direction. The material world is always wants to own you. The social world asks how you're seen. The distracted world asks what everyone else is doing. The anxious world asks what might happen next. But Marcus asks, what are you doing with the ruling power entrusted to you right now? That's the question, not the external stuff. Marcus says, gather your scattered mind, call the hunting dogs back. Stop living inside the imagined judgments of other people. Subtract what does not serve the good. Throw away what you no longer need to carry. Then do what is before you, or right now. Seriously, vigorously, calmly. Tell the truth, act justly, accept the thread. Do not allow the world to govern what was given to you to govern. Very simple, very useful truth. So a contented or a happy life remains possible, even in a world determined to distract you from it. And that is a core tenet of Book 3. I'm Dr. David Hopkins. This is the Intellectual Freedom Podcast. And until the next episode.